Ampire. Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone. What's up, Callow? How's it going?
Good. How are you? How's your weekend?
Oh man, what a weekend. What a first impression, Callow. How about that? Boy, one big pass, check out a one play, score a touchdown, go to the Super Bowl, book it. Book it in New Orleans. Let's go.
I think on Thursday when you and I caught up, or at least off of Thursday, then you and I caught up on my show on Friday. I said the fan base apparently is done with the rebuild. It's sky is falling. We're terrible, and then it only took 48 hours for everyone to go Super Bowl. Let's go. Let's go.
You know me, the overreaction part of the whole thing, I just can't take. I can't take any of it, and I felt like that practice Thursday was a bust. It was pouring outside. They were missing too many people, especially on the offensive line. And, then they turn around and do this. And remember, it's one, I'm happy it happened, but it's one series, right? One series, no more. Thought Dan Quinn was funny. Afterwards admitted that he really wasn't supposed to do that. He was wasn't supposed to get away from the script. In fact, was threatened with before the game, if you change a play, we're going to bench you. Not that really mattered when you only got one series to go off of anyway.
Sure.
But good for him. And I think that's why he smiled at the bench, because he did something he knew he wasn't supposed to do and took one good look at him and said, I'm ready to do this.
I mean, I look at this by he knows the stakes here, which are nothing. It's preseason, right? And if he sees a look and he sees something he can change out of, how mad can you be at a kid, literally a kid in his first game that he checks out of something and it works? It's the defensive equivalent to if you take it, you better make it, right? If you're a linebacker, for a quarterback, it's the same thing. If you change it, it better work. And it did. It worked perfectly fine. I'm not mad at him.
No, why would you be? Right. Why would you be? So now, yeah. Right. We're going to the Super Bowl. I want to make one mention for those of you who are watching on YouTube today. Behind me is the Joe Gibbs hat that Callow found for me on eBay. You can see the Script R hat. I won't say the word because everybody gets all weird about, oh, be careful. I better not wear a shirt with feathers on it. So back there, though, that's the one Callow found for me. And I felt like, it's like, this is the right time to start displaying this again. I want to go back to a glory era. And that hat says everything glory era to me.
Correct. It's the best. It's the best, most iconic look I think they have, actually, because of Joe Gibbs. Yes, the old uniform looks great, but that is the look right there, that hat. So,
all right. So he goes out there. He throws a dime to De'Ami Brown, who I want to talk about in a second. Does it in front of a makeshift offensive line. I want to give Chris Paul some credit here. He was thrown out there to be the right tackle for the majority of the first half. Mason Brooks was playing left tackle for some of the second stringers that came out, the second, third string guys. Trent Scott played at left tackle. They did have the interior of the line kind of intact as they expected. We now know that Brandon Coleman has a strained pectoral muscle, so that's going to be day to day. And he even said week to week. So we'll have to see if he's going to practice or play this week against Miami. He is the one that I know that they've wanted to get a really good look at. Because right now he's trending towards day one starting left tackle as a rookie third-round pick. He hasn't played against any competition yet. So I know they want to get a really good look at him. So what do you make of that? That I don't know, short subset, had success, did it without the group that you expect to have out there. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, I would say this overall. I know when we first started doing the show in the new time slot, I told you with the offensive line, we're going to see a bunch of these guys often because they're going to see what the combination are. Well, we've been forced into it very early here because of all the injuries. And I'm not surprised. And right away now people are going, oh my God, the depth isn't there. Well, when you don't have legitimate starters, there's no depth behind them either. So everyone's kind of on the same page with him doing this in front of a makeshift offensive line. I mean, maybe this is exactly what our highest hopes for Jayden was going to be, that he could kind of mask a little bit of this by checking into the right play, by avoiding pressure a little bit. I mean, you saw in the touchdown run too, a little RPO freezes everybody up, right? So I think this is the best case scenario here, is that we were kind of hoping this would be the case, that if Jayden could actually not hit his potential, but do a couple of things to help mask the weakness of the offensive line, we would all take that as a victory. And I think we saw the very first taste of it just in the one drive that he had.
It was really funny after the game, because I guess Quinn was asked then, because he ran for a touchdown, and they're like, did he call that one on his own? And he's like, no. And he goes, no, we told him if nobody's there, you can run.
Okay,
pretty good answer. That was a pretty good answer. Depth of the offensive line. Well, when you're not sure who your starters are, I think that ought to kind of tell you where you are. This is the biggest question group, I mean, of the offseason into the regular season. They're obviously the biggest concern. We've been flagging tackle for months. I'm still surprised that they haven't gone out and gotten anybody else. I think that is the biggest surprise probably of the offseason, that they didn't just get another veteran to come in and, if nothing else, bridge the gap here. And if Coleman is going to be out for any period of time, they may rethink that. Cuts are coming, but you're still like a week and a half, 2 weeks away from that. And then what? Like, you're going to bring somebody in literally a week before a game and then try to get them up to speed. It's the biggest surprise really of the offseason. The one thing I'm just not really sure why they didn't address it a little bit more than they have. I looked at the free agent tackles that were available, and outside of Mike Onwenu of New England, who ended up re-signing with them, I didn't really see one that you would go spend a ton of money on, and it's a premium position. And they weren't in the mode of going out there and spending a ton of money. So I totally understand why they didn't get a top tier one, because I don't feel like there was the right top tier one to throw that money at anyway. But there's always veterans that are out there, and they've chosen not to go in that direction. And I know the injury part is kind of not their fault, but they were quote unquote weak going in at the position, and it's getting exposed now, because the depth isn't there, because we're not even sure who the frontline starters are. So I think they're in their first front office jam pickle of, are you going to do something about this week, or are you going to let this ride and see how it plays out?
Yeah, and I mean, this was what we said in the entire offseason. I just didn't think, and no one thought it was going to rear its head this fast, right? Before the first preseason game. No one thought everyone was going to be banged up like this, but at least they know now. This is a quick preview of one or two of these guys go down, and all of a sudden you've got to start shuffling all of these guys around. I mean, I would hope that after that preseason game against the Patriots, they take someone off the scrap heap, because at this point you need another veteran in here. And I commend that offensive line that was out there on Saturday, that there are a bunch of guys being moved around in positions that they're not used to. But guess what? That's what they're all going to have to do, because we all know the depth is what it is. I would assume by the end of preseason, they're going to have to grab somebody off of the scrap heap from someone that got cut somewhere else.
They're grasping a little bit too. I mean, they were down people, but Chris Paul just getting thrown out there, you're asking him to do something that, I think for him it's scary, just throw you out there and do that when he's been mainly a guard the majority of his career here, and mainly practicing at guard for the majority of time that he's out there. Mason Brooks, listen, he is someone who's fighting for a roster spot, so they're giving him a chance to try different things. So they did. A couple of the newer guys, J.C. Hassenauer came in here. He got beat multiple times. I mean, granted, he's only been here a week, but this guy's been around the league a few years, got beat multiple times. I'll say this too, Nick Allegretti had a penalty, had a miss early in the game. So, it wasn't just, the tackles, but there are some of the guys that we're relying on that it wasn't their greatest of debuts. I'd like to think that the center of the line is going to end up being okay, but I'm going to watch that left guard position now. I don't think it was a certainty walking into camp that he was going to win the job. People portrayed it that way, but I didn't think it was a certainty. They didn't give him money like that. They gave him money, but they didn't give him starting money. So it was a competition. So we'll see how it goes with that one too. But, the biggest question mark of the team, I think it got worse is the wrong word. It got exposed more over the last week. It's just obvious now where the depth is, and that they're kind of grasping a little bit to try to figure out well, if this is what the situation is, what are we going to do about it? And, I think we're all kind of looking up at Adam Peters now going, what are you going to do about it? I think there's time to try to answer that question.
The phrase I use is it was already murky and it just got murkier.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no question. There were no more questions and no more answers. It just went, oh, okay, we're banged up now. All of a sudden, things are even a little bit worse, or at least more unknown, I guess is the word I would use. Because it's hard to really get worse. We knew what they had going into this. And as you and I both just said, with questionable starters, it means the depth behind it is in the same question now. And now we just have that same exact kind of murkier, move going forward with them.
We'll see what happens this week. Like, will they bring in another player or two? I know they like this guy that they brought in, this free agent. His name is Alex Taylor, but he goes by Armani Taylor. You saw him late come out there, kind of looks the part. I think they're going to give him a little bit more run this week, especially if guys like Lucas or Coleman don't end up practicing against the Dolphins, because he's more of a pure tackle than Chris Paul is. And then hopefully Andrew Wiley comes back sooner rather than later. They've been very careful with him, very coy about what's going on with him. It's obviously an injury, but the question is to what degree it is. So watch this closely here. And here's the other thing. Like, they can't afford another injury. Like, they can't lose Cosme or Biotis or something. That is a killer. So hopefully we'll get through the rest of the preseason with no more of this and kind of get everybody back. Hopefully. We'll see.
They're the next ones where you give them a drive, and then for pure protection standpoint, I don't think you leave them out there. You know what you got with those two. Like, I think we're at the point now where it's like, you leave them out there for a drive. They're too important now at this point for the longevity of the season and the longevity of Jayden, to be quite honest, to leave him out there any longer than that.
I agree. All right. Here's the other thing, really, a couple other things stood out from the game the other day. So a storyline that is emerging here throughout the preseason is Dyami Brown. And I'm going to get to Jamin Davis in a minute too. But like Dyami Brown, I think people looked at him and they go, carryover, didn't have much production, been around the block a few years. They either don't get him on the field or only makes a couple plays. He'll always have Tennessee. Like, that's really kind of it with him. And then if you really look at the receiving core, you go, all right, Terry Jahan, and then Zacchaeus is a clear number 3 slot receiver type. Luke McCaffrey was drafted, but hasn't really done a lot so far in camp. So who are the ones that they're going to rely on? And he keeps popping up over and over and over. And I do think it's important to point out that, like, when Daniels changed a play, which he wasn't supposed to do, it was to set him up. So he already trusts him. 1, he made the right call, got one-on-one. 2, the guy rewarded him by making a play. This has been happening in camp over and over and over. So stock rising big time on Dyami Brown. And at this juncture, I would argue he's on the outside opposite of Terry, and Jahan and Zacchaeus are splitting time on the inside. That's my gut right now of how I think things are materializing. I think Dyami Brown is not only going to make the team, he may play a more prominent role than you probably thought he was going to play early in the season.
No, I agree. And I think what was indicative of that is not Dyami, but it was Jahan. Jahan was playing deep into that game, second half. Yeah. And even I was kind of like, oh, that's your sign of, it's more of about Brown than it is about Dotson. I think that it was like, oh, they even think that Dotson needs to play at 1 or 2 different positions here to, move up on the depth chart a little bit. But it was more Brown as, oh, wow, he is established kind of as that number 2 wide receiver. I'm with you. This is probably the biggest storyline out of camp. I had this one completely wrong. I thought Brown was going to be one of the guys outside looking in. But as I've said the entire offseason, everybody from last year's offense gets a mulligan. We have no idea how these guys were supposed to be used or how they felt or whatever. And it seems like Brown is one of those ones that is going, you know what? We're all on a fresh slate here. I don't care what the past is. I'm going to work my ass off. And clearly, this is the guy that's moved up the depth chart the most out of anyone else.
Yeah, he really has. He's really stood out. He's made a lot of big plays. I kind of landed on early in camp. I looked at the depth of the group and I went, why would you cut him? Like, he clearly has a little more talent than some of the others, who are in camp, but it's starting to emerge more and more. And this is where, when you bring in a young new quarterback, you don't know who the guys are that he's going to look at first and trust. And, and I'm not sitting there suggesting you should use a high pick in your fantasy draft on Dyami Brown at this point, Keep that one in mind. Like when he checked to a play for the first time, he checked to him. I expect McLaurin to be their clear number one. Dotson, I've kind of hinted at this for a couple weeks now. I don't know if worried is the way I would put it, but I want to see how he's utilized. Where does he fit in all of this? Is he clearly like a quote unquote number two? Is he better working out of the slot than he is on the outside? If that's the case, who's on the outside that's not him? It's probably Brown. So he's moving up, in my opinion, up the depth chart big time from a guy who was marginal to make it, even though I never really thought he was in danger of being cut, to, wait a minute, he might be a heavily targeted, high volume player on the outside for this team this year.
No, 100%. And I mean, look, that doesn't mean we're writing Dotson off. I think same thing. Dotson's young. We're going into year 3 with him. I mean, he's got plenty of time to still develop. And maybe this is a good thing for him too, to kind of sit on the sideline, not sit on the sideline, but you know what I mean? More mental reps, I guess is what I'd say. Whereas Brown's a pro at this point. He's been in the league a little bit longer. And same thing. I just think this coaching staff, they know how to utilize these guys a little bit better than the last regime. You and I talked about this often this whole offseason about how, guys like Forbes or Davis, they were penciled in as starters from day one without actually seeing what their skill set was, how they would hold up to some of these guys. And then you get the situation last year, like with Forbes, where he got benched a month into the season because it just wasn't working out, right? This works on the offensive side of the ball too. I don't think these guys knew how to be utilized at certain points too. And I think Brown's also being empowered. I think there's another side of that too, where it's you make plays, you're going to be rewarded. And this is where we're at with him.
Yeah. The other rookie that really stood out was Ben Sinnot. Oh man. So he ended up being the leading receiver for them. He had one that went for 44 yards where he dragged a couple of players into Jets territory that ended up setting up what was the last touchdown that they scored, the Michael Wiley run. So if you're just going to go off first impressions, that was great. Like he's got a little bit of Cooley in him. They've described him as use check. He's got great hands. He's got a big motor. He's dragging people. In love. Love you. Okay. Great. Perfect. Wonderful. Yes. All the good words. All the good words.
This is going to be, I think the guy halfway through the season. Let's see if he emerges, because I think it's easy to say this in the second half of a preseason game that when you're a, mid-round pick, this is when you're supposed to shine, right? I mean, you're supposed to perform in those opportunities. This is the guy, though, I want to see, like, how fast can he rise up the depth chart in the regular season? He's clearly going to make the team. I'm with you. That catch and drag was very Cooley-esque. I'm always very, hesitant to crown somebody like that, though, because Cooley was unreal when it came to that, and he did it so consistently. But it's hard not to get excited, because when was the last dynamic tight end we've had here? I mean, Vernon had some plays, but it wasn't consistent. Jordan Reed was elite, but often very hurt. I mean, not just hurt, but concussions and bad injuries and stuff like that. Fred Davis had some flashes, but I mean,
Fred Davis should have been that. I don't think Fred Davis took football seriously enough to be that, but I think Fred Davis could have, would have, should have been that for them.
But what I'm getting at is consistency, and I know Cooley was hurt a lot on the back end of his career, but consistency for all of the guys I just named has been a problem. And if he can just be that, catch 1 or 2 or 3 of those balls a game, I mean, that's a literal game changer. So we'll see.
I want to get him on this show. I'm going to talk to the team. You're going to love him because he used to play hockey. And apparently he was like a Tom Wilson, just going around, just taking people as you saw against the Jets. That's kind of his liking.
Bully, bully, as Doc would say.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to talk to him about that, because apparently he was a very good hockey player, but he was Tom Wilson. He was just taking people out, all over the place, a missile taking people out. So that was off to a really good start. Thought B-Rob had a nice little start in the moments he got out there. He looked like himself again. I think he has been underutilized 2 years straight. I'm waiting to see, how does he fit in all of this? I think they have 2 very effective running backs. It's going to be very interesting to see, do they use them together? Do they not use them together? How do they utilize them? How many carries does Eckler get? How much time does Robinson get? But I'm a huge fan of his. And I feel like he's just an asset. And I like just everything about his demeanor, the way he wants to play. He's violent in the way he runs. And I'm hoping they give him an opportunity to be profiled here. I think it'll take a lot off of Jayden Daniels. And I also think it'll help the line. If it's going to be a mishmash of players, I'd rather see them run the ball more than have Jayden running for his life. So I'd like to see Robinson get a lot of opportunities here this year too.
No, I mean, we've seen it now in today's NFL. When you have these bigger, tougher running backs, nobody wants anything to do with them if they're running downhill fast like that. So I'm with you. If he also knows too, it's going to be a mess in front of me, he's going to hit the hole really, really hard. And also, it's nice that he's not the only running back on the team, that they're going to rely on Eckler, maybe just as much as they rely on him, maybe in a different role. But the fact that they have a really good tandem and people are now starting to talk about them as a tandem tells me everything I need to know, that they're, whether the offensive line figures it out or not, they're going to be utilized, both ways.
I also listen, it's a preseason game. I don't want to go too far, but this really stood out to me when I was there live and in rewatching it, actually. Yes, I do that. I rewatched the preseason game. I did that. I thought Cliff Kingsbury actually called a good game. All things considered, I knew going in, they've basically told us they're not going to show what they're doing. I don't blame them. This is a team with a whole new coaching staff, with a rookie quarterback, with 30 to 35 new players on it. Why in the world would you show Tampa what you're going to do? So I don't expect to see a lot, but there were a lot of little things that occurred that I was kind of tip of the cap to Kingsbury. On 3 separate occasions, he started a drive with a motion going one way and the quarterback waggle out away from pressure, which I think was a nod to, we don't know what we have in front of us. Let's get the quarterback moving a little bit. Let's try to make a play early, get us in a second and short situation so we can actually have a drive. So I actually thought he did a very good job with that. He got tricky with this sprint option in the second half, which I was actually surprised that they showed. I mean, albeit it was, Jeff Driscoll, but still, they showed that they're capable of doing it and executing it. I was surprised by that. And then, lastly, Daniels did check out of a play. I'm sure Kingsbury's not upset, but he checked into the right one. It's a Kingsbury play. I thought just in general, overall, for a debut for him as the new offensive coordinator, I thought it was a good one by Kingsbury.
No, I mean, and going off of how practice was going, that week, I think we all, not to say we were prepared for a quote unquote disaster, but I think we all went in with tempered expectations of, even if this looks bad, we can't put that much stock into it. And then they ended up looking really good. Overall, the entire offense ended up looking pretty good for a preseason game where they are banged up. Look, this is one of the things too that, you and I harped on last year with Bieniemy, was Bieniemy just didn't do enough in his offense, right? He didn't do any of these motions. He didn't do any of these little things to change it up. So much so that you pointed out all the time in that Bills game, guys were waiting where the ball was being thrown because there was so little misdirection going on. It's just nice to see these types of things. The fact that we had just take a step back. We had misdirection, we had motion, and we also had a quarterback actually changing out of the play. I'm not sure when the last time that's actually happened, overall in the pantheon of things here.
Wow, we're a professional football team. Amazing.
2024, we're finally here. We're finally here where the quarterback can make plays and the offense is a little bit innovative. I mean, it's crazy to think, but we're finally here.
Yeah. Last thing on the offense, I'll get to the defense in a second. I thought overall the quarterback play was good. I mean, across the board for all 4 of them, I thought was pretty good. It's just another sign to me of Cliff Kingsbury and Tavita, the quarterback coach, that they've done a really nice job. Now, listen, Driscoll's been around the block. He's a longtime veteran. So is Mariota. Mariota was the only one. He had he had a bad drive and then didn't get an opportunity to redeem himself. But Jayden had a great first impression. Driscoll played a ton before they turned it over to Hartman. Driscoll actually looked pretty good. He's very, very good athlete. He had been transitioned to tight end for a period of time, went back to quarterback. He's a very good athlete. So they clearly have the profile of the type of players they want here with Daniels, Mariota, and now Driscoll, who I think made it more interesting to think about if they're going to keep a third quarterback, which I don't know why you would, right now, but that was a good first start for him. The showing off the wheels, showing off a little bit of the arm, had a nice throw to Brown on a curl, around the 50-yard line. And then for a first go, Hartman could have thrown an interception, but other than that, his experience showed up. The pressure was getting to him. He threw a shuffle pass to get away from it once on a blitz, which is rare in the preseason, got out of the pocket and ran for a first down. overall, the quarterback play in its entirety was very promising off of the first preseason game.
No, I agree. Overall, it was about all you could ask for from these guys. I mean, like you said, Mariota was the only one where I kind of like give him a ding, but same thing. He's only on there for a drive. We know he's a professional quarterback. How much are you actually putting stock into that one drive? I don't think you put that much in. I was pretty impressed by Driscoll, to be honest. I mean, I just obviously haven't seen that much of him, but I was actually impressed with him in the preseason play. And Hartman, same thing. Hartman, for a guy that was undrafted, solid.
Yes. All right, we'll revisit the rest of the game on the other side of the ball next. Bram watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.
This episode is brought to you by our good friends at NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. I'm sure by now you've all gotten back into your Sunday routines, but they could be even better. With NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV, you get the most live NFL games all in one place, every game, every Sunday. And you can even watch up to 4 different games at once with multi-view, one of my favorite inventions of this decade. It's exactly what you need to catch all the action. Make your Sundays more magical. And also, YouTube TV is great. I got it this year. It's awesome. Sign up now at youtube.com/BS. Device and content restrictions apply. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games.
All right, welcome back. Bram Watch that show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. We talked a lot about the offense. Let's get into the defense here a little bit as well. After the first quarter, Callow, the Jets had 6 yards. And I know Aaron Rodgers didn't play, or Garrett Wilson, or Breece Hall. In fact, I think the number was 28 guys. They did not suit up. So that sucks. So I don't think you get a full test. But that was Tyrod Taylor. And that rookie running back, by the way, Braylon Allen. Breece Hall, Braylon Allen. Good luck with that. I wish everybody a lot of luck with that one. Anyway, so that with context of that, at least that was a professional quarterback that was out there. They held him to 6 yards. The first quarter, if you like Jayden's drive and the way the defense in its on its whole played, even without John or Duron playing, again, very promising start.
No, I actually thought in basically the whole linebacking core was not playing as well. That was actually the one where I was like, oh, wow, they are really not going with any starters here. I'm with you. I think the bar on this defense, we still don't know what it's going to be, but I think the floor was raised in the offseason. I think that was the whole point this offseason was we cannot have a repeat of last year if we're going to be in these games. And that's what they did. The floor was brought up, and they brought in a lot of professionals and a lot of veterans, and we saw that play out on Saturday. And you're right. Like it's Tyrod, professional quarterback, but I thought as a unit and actually playing as one, and we've heard everything during camp. You've been there during camp where they're storming the ball and playing with a little bit more discipline. Once again, it just played out in front of us like that. And I'm happy to see that. I'm still being very wary until they actually get to the regular season because they worry me, but you can't be mad at the effort that they had on Saturday.
No. One of the guys who got a ton of run was Jamin Davis. Played a lot. I think this preseason for them is reps. And I think it's a sign of they actually like him. It's not that they don't like him. They do. I think I talked about this last week with you a little bit. Like we spent a few weeks going, how does he make the team? Like if he's not going to be a prominent edge rusher and you just do the numbers on the defensive line, like, are they going to cut someone like Andre Jones or KJ Henry? I don't think so, to make room for him. And then you look at the linebackers and you go, well, look at all the changes that were made. How's he going to make the team? After the conversations I had a week ago with a number of people within the team, I don't think that's the case at all. In fact, I think that they're pleased with what he's doing on third downs, what it was kind of described to me. They're very pleased with what he's doing on third down, that he's learning. He isn't professionally trained with, pass rush moves. So they're working on that. And Ryan Kerrigan is working very, very, very hard to get this, to be in his skill set. So they're working very hard together, but there were some promising things and they gave him a lot of run. He made a couple of nice plays against the run early in the game. They believe that he's getting better and better as a situational third down, player, but they put him out there on purpose for a number of plays to see how he held up on first and second down against the run. And I'll have to ask them what the reviews were of that. but I think you need to look at what's happening with him as they're hoping they're finding a role for him. They believe that he is an asset. And I'm now less inclined to think he doesn't make the team. I'm more inclined, not only does he make it, but probably not unlike De'Ami Brown, plays more than you think he's going to, that it's kind of trending that way as we head towards the season.
Once again, this goes back to utilizing your players and what you actually use them for. And the fact that they're going to figure out a role for him is exactly what he's needed since he's gotten here, right? Like, that was one of the problems when he was drafted. Oh, he's going to be the middle linebacker. Oh, well, he can't really do that. He needs to have Davis out there basically coaching with him. Oh, well, that didn't work out. We're going to put him at outside linebacker. And then it was, oh, he's situationally an outside linebacker, even in a linebacking core that was terrible the last few years. And now all this coaching staff does is go, this is an athlete. We know when he's running towards the ball, he's a missile. And all of a sudden, that's what they're doing. They're just letting him go out there and try to play on the line there. Or I think ultimately what the plan is here for him is he's going to be one of those guys where they don't play a 3-4 anymore, but he's going to act like that outside linebacker that can be rushing or drop back. And he could be confusing if he actually figures it out here. Once again, this is all about utilizing the players that they have, just something that hasn't been done in a couple years here.
Yeah, I hate doing this because I think there has to be a statute of limitations of Ron Jack bashing, but just in this discussion, okay, here they are. And will he end up being good at this? I don't know. And the clock is ticking on him. And they're not just good. This isn't a charity thing. They're not just going to stick him out there. Like they got to try to win. But Quinn and Witt keep talking about, we're going to move people around, but we're moving people around to try to figure out what are they really good at, because we want them to do more of that. And we want to profile them doing the things that they're really good at. And then last year and the last 4 years has been position flex for the sake of fitting into what we want people to do, not necessarily what they might be really good at. And oh, by the way, everybody's confused. And just listen to Quinn over and over. Like one of the things he says over and over is, I'll know if we're doing things right if I hear everybody talking before the play actually happens. He wants them to be on the same page. He wants it simple, but the demand is, okay, like we're going to watch and try to put you in your best position possible. We're going to hopefully, not put you in uncomfortable positions. We're going to teach you our scheme. We want all this. We want over communication, but in return to us for doing that for you, we want the ball. And that's their thing back to them. We're going to put you in a position to do the things you're really good at. We want you to do it, but we expect you to reward us by giving us the ball on the sideline. And that didn't happen the other day. So, and it's a preseason game and it's a lot of different people, but this is what they're talking about. But just the whole overarching, instead of what we had before, which was land of confusion out there, we've got everybody hopefully getting on the same page. And Davis, if he ends up being an asset for them as a pass rusher, it's just another indictment of the previous coaching staff that they were able to take someone and go, what can we do with him? Because he's a great athlete to make him better and help us. And if that were to work out, it is just another sign of just the change in, if you want to use culture or coaching, however you want to use it, that's going on around here.
No, absolutely. It was a old school approach that when something's not working, it's all right, bench them, put the next guy out there, and then just forget about it. And that's like the worst thing you can do now in today's NFL. You have to utilize people any way that you can. I was actually talking to someone over the weekend about this during the preseason game of like, Ron was great at like keeping the flames fanned for like day to day. And then he walks out of here and you're like, wow, the place is burned down. What happened? Like he day to day, he was great at keeping everyone calm. I don't understand really like how all that happened. And with Jamin, he's just the latest example of, if you just utilize a guy in any way or just try to utilize him in a different way, it could actually pay off. And they decided not to do that. So,
yeah, it was. So we'll see. I mean, like, listen, again, it's early, but like, notice how much he played the other day.
Yeah.
It's purposeful. They want to give him run. I think they want to give him an opportunity to get a lot of reps at this position, because I think they're priming him for not only are you going to make the team, like we actually anticipate you're going to play a little bit more than I think all of us, are kind of like viewing this going, well, how's he going to beat out this guy? Or how's he going to do this? I don't know. Like he may rotate with Farrell more than you think this year. That may happen this year. All right, let's get to the other one that's a concern. I am full on red alert with Emmanuel Forbes at this point. So the first couple of weeks of camp, he and St. Juice got the vast majority of what we would describe as the ones reps with the defense. And I kept saying, though, I don't know exactly what I'm looking at. They're not really going full go in 11 on 11. There's no hitting. It's just kind of hard to tell, like really where we are. And then the unofficial first depth chart came out and he wasn't listed as a starter. And the coaching staff had hinted, like, don't forget about Mike Davis. Like, was brought in here for a reason. He could start. And so it started to feel like, all right, it's going to be probably Davis if he, really fits into this defense the way they want him to, and either St. Juice or Forbes, but all three are going to play a lot. And it's not going that way right now. And listen, I'm not going to put too much on one play. He was beat on one play for a touchdown, but the way that it's just kind of being put out there is he going to be quote unquote good enough, in what they're asking him to do to warrant a lot of playing time. And I think this is an enormous week for him. Like, just enormous. Like, they're going to go down there. They're facing elite receivers, in the practice. And then they're hopefully going to get a little bit of run with them. I'm hoping Miami complies and plays them for just a drive or two. It'd be great if that happens, and see how he holds up out there in that. And if it doesn't go particularly well, I could see a gear shift where Davis and St. Juice are starting on the outside, or maybe Samer still gets a look out there. I don't really know. Because I know they like Igbenogany in the slot. They feel like they have two good slot corners, Samerstill and Igbenogany. So they could move Samerstill out there to see what it looks like on the outside of the way they've moved some people around. So I'm on full red alert with Emmanuel Forbes. I don't know how it's going to play out, but I don't think it's trending the way I would put it is, I don't think it's trending very well right now.
When the word got out that Samerstill was basically the real deal in minicamp, I had kind of not suggested this, but kind of just looking at the roster going, if he's the real deal, I could see him starting on the outside out of necessity, essentially. That if he's good enough, I could see them starting him out there, and if they like the depth behind him to go at slot, I'm with you. Forbes here, I thought maybe Quinn was using it as motivation on the depth chart, and now it's almost like they did him a favor by only listing him, as the second corner, on that slot that he was at. And yeah, I don't know what you do here. Same thing, not to beat a dead horse, but it's indicative of the last regime that you drafted a guy for a need. You also, my problem with Forbes last year was you just penciled him in as the starter. You didn't even have him earn that spot. Yeah. They gave it to him. And that's also, you're messing with his psychology at that point too. You not only started him without him playing a snap, then, you can't cover AJ Brown. You were going to bench you now. And it was like, well, how is that fair to anybody? And so, yeah, I'm not surprised it's dicey with him at this point. And, you would think with him, he realizes that it's a fresh regime. It's a fresh, front office. But, if he just doesn't have it, he doesn't have it. And that was the question when they drafted him in the first place, was that he was undersized and he was a ball hawk, but no one knew if he could hold up or actually be a consistent corner. And here we are, year two, with those same questions.
Yeah, the word I'm using is I'm concerned.
Yes.
Which is a nice way of saying, I don't think this is going the right way.
Yeah.
And we'll just have to see how it plays out. And, hopefully there are no other injuries, but if Samerstill is getting run on the outside over the next week, just to see how it goes, I think it tells you everything you need to know, right? 100%. Because he has excelled immediately as a day one slot corner. So if they're going, but we might need to put you out here, that tells you where they are.
Yep.
So we'll just have to see how it plays out. All right, let me take a quick break. Very much to show ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. Welcome back. Very much to show ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. Let's get to a few other things that were going on over the weekend. One, Man, did we clean up in gold medals with the team sports over the weekend as the Olympics came to a close. How about Trinity Rodman and the Americans? Well. Like we have this connection with the Spirit, and I'm excited. We're, 2 weeks away, less than 2 weeks away from getting their season back going again. They're going to start up. They're going to have a friendly this coming weekend down at Audi Field, and then the NWSL will start up the week after again. And they got actually one of the front runners of the league, Kansas City, coming here. So be really good to get that back going again. But the American team, which was an underdog going into the tournament, comes out, wins the gold medal, and didn't give up a goal in any of the elimination games, quarterfinal, semifinal, or final. Won all of them 1-0. What a run by the American team.
No, it was fantastic. And what I loved was, the new nickname for Sophia Smith, Trinity Rodman, and Mallory Swanson was Triple Espresso. And they were the ones getting all the love. But I think you and I knew this because we watched a game with her. But Naomi Girma was like the fourth star, and she was so good defensively. Everybody was paying attention to her. And I was really happy that she got her props. But of course, it was Swanson that ended up scoring that game winner on Sunday. And by the way, this was actually pretty crazy. I was at the bullpen at the Spirits watch party on Saturday morning. It was almost simultaneous when Swanson scored. Jayden Daniels ran in for the touchdown. They were like minutes apart. And I was like, oh, we're cooking with gas. It's only like 12:15 this Saturday, and everyone's losing their mind over everything right now. But yeah, for a team that was relatively new, everybody said they had to work through the chemistry with Emma Hayes, who, left Alex Morgan and other older stars off the roster. All they did was go out there and win a gold medal. And honestly, too, I know you were calling the game. The game against Brazil was dicey in the first half. I mean, Brazil was taking it to them in the first 20, 30 minutes, a ton of chances. Girma looked a little out of sorts. And the fact that they just stayed calm, waited for their chance, Swanson scores, and you knew once they went up 1-0 that they were going to hold on and win.
I'll give the Jets some credit. They actually threw up the last couple of minutes up on the big screen in the stadium.
Nice.
So I was glancing up and saw when they won and were celebrating. And the crowd gave them a big cheer. So that was really cool. I thought that was very cool that they did that in the middle of the preseason game. They threw that up there. As for the basketball teams, I'm not surprised about our women's team. We haven't lost since, the 1930s or whatever it is. They actually had a close game with France.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised, that we ended up winning the gold medal there. There's really kind of nothing to say about it other than nobody can beat us at that, and nobody should beat us at that at this point. We're still way ahead. And, I want to give the American men's team a lot of credit here too. It wasn't just Steph Curry in the fourth quarter who was ridiculous. I don't know if you've seen the highlights from the French announcers going nuts.
Yes.
Steph Curry, how they it was as if they hadn't seen him before. It was really funny. We're like, yeah, he's only been doing this for 15 years, but okay, guys,
they called him the devil. They said the devil Curry. I mean, that's the highest compliment you can get as a basketball player, that a foreign country is calling you the devil, or they called him a maestro. I methat French call was unreal for him.
It was good. And I want to give, because I make fun of LeBron a lot here. I want to give a lot of credit through this tournament. He was great. I mean, he was great in the exhibition games that they played leading up. He was great in the game against Jokic's team.
Serbia.
He was great. They came back from way down in that game, and he was a big, big, big part of it. So I want to give kudos to the king, who I make fun of here constantly for the way he acts professionally and with the Lakers. But man, when he put that jersey on with USA on it, did he show up big time for us? So he was outstanding.
I'm so glad that because I was obviously watching, but social media too. Everyone had kind of come together of this is what it's like to be a Steph fan, huh? Because he's just shooting up these shots 3 feet behind the 3-point line and for over 2 defenders. And then there's LeBron, who just when he decides he wants to be dominant is literally the best player ever. And then you haven't even mentioned KD, who became the highest international scorer ever in this game as well. And what I thought was really cool at the end was we all have our feelings about all 3 of those players, especially not being on our team. But everyone kind of going, this is the swan song to this generation. The next few years, they're all going to retire. But that this game was the one where Steph was putting up crazy shots. LeBron was being athletic as hell. And KD was putting up these jumpers that only he could make. I mean, I was getting emotional watching the game because you could tell it's the last breath for all of them together. playing, for the flag essentially. And France gave them a run. Our boy Bilal was out there on the floor in the fourth quarter. I mean, that was crazy. But I think everyone kind of came together, was like, this is really cool because we're not going to see this again with these guys. The next generation is going to be, the 2028 Olympics.
I also know that Skip Bayless is somewhere without a TV show currently, so upset that he can't do the hot take of Jason Tatum actually sucks. Like, I know he's sitting somewhere wishing he could just yell that out there today because of how little he actually plays and how Jason's mom is asking why her son is not playing. And,
right.
I will hot take this. I don't think he's as good as some of these other guys either. So I don't know, end. No,
I mean, and look, Kerr was pretty consistent, actually. Like, if you didn't play in one game, he would play you in the next game. Okay, well, then the medal round started, and he's stuck with the best guys. Like,
we're here to win.
Welcome to that. And I forget who it
was.
Welcome
to competitive sports when you try to win, the best guys play. That's the way it works.
I'm trying to remember who it was yesterday. I think it was Sue Bird was on the post game for the women's game. And she was like, this has been the best part about our side is that we don't care who scores. We don't care who's the star in every game because we all know that we're really good. We just want to win gold. And that's exactly what happened with them yesterday against France. France had them on the ropes the entire time and it ended up just being a different person every single possession. The men's team could learn a thing or two about the women's team of you're just trying to win, guys. Like, it doesn't matter who's playing as long as you're winning.
It was nice cleaning it up. Tomorrow I'll break down Hard Knocks a little bit, where they actually showed Simone Biles' husband, who plays for the Bears, Jonathan Owens, going to Paris and then watching her from home. I thought it was really, really cool what they did. But I'll talk about that tomorrow. All right, that'll do it for today. Talk to you tomorrow. For a bunch of show, ESPN 630, The Sports Capital.